Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Black Army Radio. Been a few days since our last shout out, and at the end of our pod, we were kind of debating like, hey, there might be a few things to talk about in the next couple days.
Uh,
Get a couple out a day. How we doing, Joel? What's happening, man?
oh, doing good. It's feels every bit of summer down here in the city. It was 82 degrees and I'm not ready for it. That's for damn sure.
It's crazy, dude. It's 70 in Steamboat, which is
Yeah, that's nuts.
it's wild. We didn't even really have a winter this year. It was a good winter not to have a ski pass. All right, so we had Joe Kent, who was the director of U.S. National Counterterrorism Center, NCTC, formally resigned his position under Tulsi Gabbard to Donald Trump because of the war in Iran. And I'll just go ahead and read his resignation letter before we even start to get into it, since it seems it's causing just a little bit of a ruckus out there. Just a little. President Trump, after much reflection, I have decided to resign from my position as director of the National Counterterrorism Center effective today. I cannot in good conscience support the ongoing war in Iran. Iran posed no imminent threat to our nation, and it is clear that we started this war due to pressure from Israel and its powerful American lobby. I support the values and the foreign policies that you campaigned on in 2016, 2020, 2024, which you enacted in your first term. Until June of 2025, you understood that the wars in the Middle East were a trap that robbed America of the precious lives of our patriots and depleted the wealth and prosperity of our nation. In your first administration, you understood better than any modern president how to decisively apply military power without getting us drawn into never-ending wars. You demonstrated this by killing Qasem Soleimani and by defeating ISIS. Early in this administration, high-ranking Israeli officials and influential members of the American media deployed a misinformation campaign that wholly undermined your America First platform and sowed pro-war sentiments to encourage a war with Iran. This echo chamber was used to deceive you into believing that Iran posed an imminent threat to the United States and that you should strike now. There is a clear path to swift victory. This was a lie, and is the same tactic the Israelis used to draw us into the disastrous Iraq war that cost us, our nation, the lives of thousands of our best men and women. We cannot make this mistake again. As a veteran who deployed to combat 11 times, and as a Gold Star husband who lost my beloved wife Shannon in a war manufactured by Israel, I cannot support sending the next generation off to fight and die in a war that serves no benefit to the American people nor justifies the cost of American lives. I pray that you will reflect upon what we are doing in Iran and who we are doing it for. The time for bold action is now. You can reverse course and chart a new path for our nation, or you can allow us to slip further towards decline and chaos. You hold the cards. Woo! I'll tell you what, I think that fifth paragraph's a doozy. Or the
Yeah.
fourth paragraph
Well,
is a doozy, man.
and the thing is what um it doesn't do anything for Americans, but it does a lot of stuff for Trump and people in Trump's circle. And that's the thing that pisses me most off about this war. Like, and not this war particularly, but that region in Israel, all of Trump's money tied to that region. Some of these new things they wanted to do in Gaza, and they're talking, I think they call it a smart city or but essentially it's a AI ran city where they want to be like tests to do these super digital secured cities, and he's talking about having 20 of these cities in America. These are all, and like having these cities in Greenland as well. And this is where like it doesn't make any sense for the American people or our nation, but it makes a lot of sense for the tech bros, these AI companies, and Israel because they want to be the mecca of that because there's so much money involved in it.
Doesn't
And
Jared
it's
Kushner
sad.
have something to do with that?
Yep, Kushner. Pretty much any of the AI guys are in it. I mean, if you want to go down this rabbit hole, you really got to look into Peter Thiel. Curtis Yarvin was kind of the architect of having this authoritarian, digitalized, authoritarian, secured state, and these tech bros kind of just went with his thought and took it to the next level because they have the technology to do it, essentially. But it's a really crazy wormhole. Curtis Yarvin is he was kind of a conservative talking head, but was always in the background. But he kind of, as tech started spinning, getting bigger, he started leaning into AI, authoritarian type thought for controlling people, and that's where Peter Thiel, JD Vance, all these guys latched on. But that's here nor there. But when Kent says it doesn't make sense, I mean, I think it makes sense for some people, and these are people who donated the most to Trump's cabinet, along with Israel. I mean, just follow the money, and it's all there, like any other thing.
What it doesn't make sense to is like middle class America, right?
Yeah,
The people
for
that are
sure.
because I mean, a lot of people don't keep up with a lot of this stuff. I mean, you gotta like deep dive into all that kind of information. It takes a lot of time or a lot of
Yep.
listening to podcasts or like different kind of news outlets. It's investment, and some people, our society is very limited on their investment into information and knowledge. Like, is a
Right.
democracy as a republic built around reason, like the deist foundation of reason and reasonableness? It's kinda like, one of the expectations of the citizenry is to be educated, to make educated decisions on who you put in power, because you don't have a king. Like,
Right.
you're electing who you deem to be the most favorable person to continue this life moving forward, and I think in a lot of ways, the American public, almost with intention, is kind of, in a lot of ways, remains a little bit undereducated on some of this stuff because it is hard. And like, I mean, if you have a two-parent household, like both parents are working,
Yep.
it's real rare these days to have a single parent household anymore. You know what I mean? Like people are busting their ass. They're working at least 40 hours a week. They're going to their kids' sporting events. They don't have a whole lot of time to sit there and then like digest a whole bunch of information, which sucks because there's just and especially now because there's so much stuff coming out that you have to stay up with if you're gonna make
All right.
good educated decisions on who the hell our leadership's gonna be. And that being said, like, who's Joe Kent? And why does it matter that a guy that is this prominent resigned from this position? Well, first of all, the guy spent 20 years in the military, and he spent his entire career in special operations, his entire career in a tier 1 or a tier 2 unit. He started out in the 75th Ranger Regiment. He went through RIP before it was called RASP, which is what it's called now. It's Ranger Assessment and Selection Program. Back when I went through and back when he went through, it was called RIP, which is Ranger Indoctrination Program. And he made it through that selection, got into the 75th Ranger Regiment, got the schools involved with that, went Green Beret after that, uh, to a different form of in the special operations community, and then he spent a certain amount of time in SF, and then he went over to ISI, which is Advanced Intelligent Special Mission Training, and so that's actually a tier one outfit. Um, they do all the targeting and intel for all of our tier 1 units to hit, like all the hunter killer missions, all the kill capture missions, like surveillance and what you would call like denied environments, which are environments that are extremely difficult to be doing any kind of surveillance or counter surveillance or reconnaissance in, track high HVTs, high value targets, do all that kind of stuff, building bucket hits, what we used to call cell phone data, tracking all that kind of stuff, build target packages. Um, it's a pretty serious unit, and it does basically all the targeting for CAG, Combat Applications Group, Delta, Developmental Group, which is SEAL Team 6, and then also Regimental Reconnaissance Detachment, which is the 75th Ranger Regiment's Tier 1 unit which is called RRD, in the 75th Ranger Regiment. They were the Ranger super duper elite guys. Um, and so and the guy got 6 Bronze Stars. 6 Bronze Stars on 11 combat deployments. And I guess he spent the vast majority of his time in Iraq. And so When he's talking about Iraq being fought for Israel, you got a dude who absolutely saw a hell of a lot of death and destruction in that state, and participated in a lot of these kill capture operations and the targeting operations. And I think as years and years and years go by and you kind of grow up and develop as a man and as an individual and start to think independently with reason and come up with your own outcomes, it seemed to me like he started as time has gone on, his views have begun to change, even in the last couple of years. And so that's interesting to me. And his wife Shannon, I believe she was in the Navy, and she was killed as an attachment for probably is I can't say for sure, so I don't want to say it. Some kind of attachment for a special operations unit inside Syria by ISIS. And so he's a gold star husband as well as being a dude with 11 combat deployments in the special operations community for 20 years um and 6 bronze stars. I mean, dude's a heavy hitter, man. He's a he's a big time. He's an alpha. He's a big time heavy.
Well, and the thing, I mean, it doesn't concern me. It doesn't even surprise me. I mean, it does concern me. It's more disappointing. Um, what bothers me is like you would hope that when, especially like mega conservatives see something like this, they would take it as a warning, but instead they go straight for the guy's character, and this isn't just some Joe Smo who said, who was a lobbyist for Trump and got pushed into position because Trump's done that enough. This is somebody who probably had the resume to be doing what he was doing. He was doing counterintelligence and he's been in that type of for 20 years in the Middle East, and how uh, MAGA is turning on him, and going straight to his character and all that stuff. And they should be taking it as a warning, as a red flag versus um, just straight attacking the guy, and that bothers me more than anything.
Oh yeah, but I'll tell you what though, it's also having the opposite effect as that as well. Like there's guys that were kind of on the fence. I got a good buddy of mine, John Titoni, and we talk all the time. Tit one, shout out, buddy. And he's been on the fence a lot with this administration and different stuff going back and forth. And like the slack that he saw Joe Kent take right after he did his resignation sealed the deal for him. Like he text messaged me, he called me, and it troubled him deeply on a deep level because we can like regardless of political affiliations, like on a personal level, man, like you identify with those guys. And right or wrong, when you hear, I mean, frankly, just pieces of shit that were too cowardly to serve themselves, calling a man like Joe Kent, who deployed over and 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 over. That's 11 times. 6 Bronze Stars. Made it through some of the hardest goddamn training the United States military has to offer. You know what I'm saying? I mean, like in every single one of those selection processes, whether you're talking about RIP, you go from 200 to around 30 dudes in RIP. That's basically what my class was. That was pretty average. SF, it's going to be something pretty similar. ISI, I don't know what the selection process is for that, but I'm sure it's extensive. It's like the guy has got a wealth of knowledge and information. Like he's had his dick in the mud for sure. And it's like, it's that when to hear guys, super conservative podcast types, right? That have a lot of freaking pull come out and badmouth this dude and call him a coward. See, this is the thing. They're not just being like, hey, man, this is a wrong decision. Like this dude made the wrong decision. We don't agree
Right.
with his stance. They're calling him a fucking coward. They're calling him a fucking coward, bro.
But I mean, it's out of Trump's fucking playbook though, in that realm, like if you turn against him, like they attack your character, they attack who you are. He's done it with every lawyer who's had work for him. As soon as they go, they're pieces of shit. I should have never hired them. You know, I'm starting to wonder if he, and the thing what sucks with this guy is he was he had the resume to be there. If he was under a Republican or Democrat administration, I know a lot of Democrats wouldn't like him, but as far as wartime counterintelligence stuff, he had the resume to do it, you know?
Oh
And
yeah.
and it makes and with all the people who've been fired or resigned, and then you have probably the only guy who really had the fucking resume in the room to be in the position he was
Yep.
is now gone,
Yep.
and that's the scary part.
It's yeah, it is really scary, and I want to see like I'm really disappointed in Tulsi Gabbard, bro.
Yeah.
Like Tulsi Gabbard was selling shirts on her website saying no war with Iran before Trump was elected. She got on all the podcasts, Sean Ryan, Joe Rogan, right? Like all the podcasts did the major podcast circuit talking about the military industrial complex, talking about how we can't be killing any more American soldiers in the Middle East for BS causes. We need to reinvest in the American project. We need to reinvest American dollars into the American people. This, that, and the other thing. And she's totally full of shit. She's
Yep.
totally full of shit, man. Like she should have resigned with Joe Kent if she had an ounce of
And
what she said that she was before. And I respect that woman's service for sure. But as a man that served myself, like I can't for the life of me understand why she is saying and doing what she's saying and doing now, which is 180 degrees different than just like Trump, just like JD
right,
Vance. Like it's
all of
it's it's
them.
just like all of them, man. They all went on that circuit. I mean, how many times we hear JD Vance talk about peace and not having war in the Middle East anymore? All the time.
The the Republican super, I forget what, it was one of the biggest Republican super PACs. Trump and JD Vance were the peace presidents. That was like their
Yeah.
main sell was the peace presidents, And
Yeah,
um
we're about ready. We're gonna get into some more shit that's happened just in the last 48 hours with Iran. Like Israel hit Iran's massive gas and oil facility. Trump he came out with that tweet basically saying don't retaliate, and Iran's like, yeah, watch this, bitch. And they just smoked massive gas and oil refineries in Saudi Arabia and these other places. We'll get into that in a minute. But before we do, there's a few individuals that we were talking about before that I mean, like Donald Trump, how many times did Donald Trump dodge the fucking draft in Vietnam? What, twice? Something like that? More
yeah,
times? I know it was a number of times, right? Donald Trump has no goddamn place to be calling Joe Kent a coward. Donald Trump's a fucking coward. Period. The end. He's a coward. Dan Bongino. Dan Bongino's coming out, right? Remember? He was super duper like Mr. Epstein files.
oh yeah,
Mr. International sponsored child rape, gonna get to the bottom of it as he's squinting into the camera and he's talking tough as fuck, flipping off the camera like this and being like, motherfucker this, motherfucker that, trying to look hard as a coffin nail. He's a coward.
mm,
Never served in the military, never put his ass on the line. He had 20 years to do it, and he's calling Joe Kent a coward. Yeah.
right.
Okay. Sorry, being a cop isn't the same thing as being a soldier on the front fucking lines in a war. Um, Mark Levin, conservative talk show host, never served, older boomer, right? Everybody's
Yeah.
really starting to figure out who Mark Levin is. He's a coward. He's calling out Joe Kent, calling him a coward. Mark Levin couldn't beat his way out of a wet paper bag, dude. I mean, that little
Nope.
runt. It's my Megan Kelly's right calling him. He's saying he's got a micro penis. I'll tell you that. Another one is Brandon Tatum. Here's another cop. Two cops on the list. Brandon Tatum, he's a big time podcast guy, and he's been bad about this stuff with Kent. I've listened to one of his videos, and within the first like 15 seconds of the video, he calls Joe Kent a coward multiple times.
Yeah.
Multiple times. Guess what, Brandon Tatum? Never served in the military, never went on a deployment, never went and stacked Muslim bodies for the good old US of A, right? Hunting for those WMDs that are so important. He was a fucking cop. Once again, it's not the same thing as volunteering to be a soldier in a fucking war zone. Sorry if that offends
Right.
you, but that's the truth. And there's a lot of other just like, and I keep saying this because it bothers me that I feel this way, but I'm getting way more hardened about this the more that I see it. Especially just like Titty told me about. when he messaged me. It was like he was finding it really personal. Like he was taking these attacks personally that were happening to Joe Kent. Because when you hear these people that that are 40 something year old dudes that are welders or electricians or, doing whatever they're doing with their lives, which is great, but now they're all for the war and they're all for fighting the exact same war that we had fought for 20 fucking years, that they didn't fight in the first time, that they're now not going to fight it in the second time. They're telling us that we need to send our fucking kids in to fight this war, are saying stuff about Joe Kent. And it's like, hey, man, if you're a dude in your 40s and you're a middle class, whatever guy, and doing whatever it is you're doing, like, sorry, bro, you are the last motherfucker that should be having any
Right.
kind of opinion about a man like Joe Kent and what he sacrificed and what his family sacrificed for this country. I mean, unbelievable to me, bro. I just had to get those names out there. I had to do those
Well,
direct call outs to those
and
guys.
you have Laura Loomer, who essentially says that he was a coward, and because he worked under, I'm assuming it's because he worked under some of Democrat administrations in his wartime, that he is probably buddies with some of the generals from that time. And she said, "Oh, he's an incel, he's a Democrat, he's a fucking coward." And like, and she goes, "Anybody who doesn't, I think it was obey Trump needs to leave this cabinet now." Was like her exact thing, and that's like that's why we have a system that's set up. We're not supposed to listen to a president. I mean, we have, that's why you have Congress. That's why you have all these systems. It's not this authoritarian, and that's I mean, he's done nothing but fuck our country up in a year. Our dollar's
Well,
crashing. We're at war. Like,
we're about ready to lose the world's
oh,
reserve currency.
yeah.
Like, right now,
Like,
that's what Iran is shooting for. Like, Iran is 100% shooting to economically destroy the West because for them, it's just about survival. If they survive, they win.
no,
It's as simple as that. Like, it's an existential threat for them. It's not an existential threat for us. And I mean, Joe Kent was right because if Iran was an imminent threat to the United States, we would be receiving incoming right now. We would
yeah,
be. And it's like they're not getting out of the Middle East with any of their stuff because there weren't a freaking threat to the United States of America. Were they a threat to our military bases and stuff down there? Yeah, but they hadn't been hitting them. They hadn't been sending freaking hypersonic missiles into them, you know? And so, yeah, Lori Loomer, she's also the one that tried to get she's trying to get Tucker Carlson, trying to have the DOJ indict
yep,
him on being a foreign asset. That's Laura Loomer too. Yeah, these are all conservative media people that, once had a little bit of respect for me back in the past. And now, I mean, I have zero respect for any of these individuals
right.
moving forward at all, you know?
Well, and for me, when it comes to journalism in general, and everyone has their slant, but when someone comes out and says they're like a staunch lefty or righty, I just have a hard time listening to it because this is what you get. The people who are blindly stand behind it and report on it. And, a real journalist is looking at something from the middle and and then it's a weird time for journalism right now in this country too. Like it's,
Do you speaking
I
of
don't even
journalists,
know.
did you see that journalist that was in Lebanon that almost got killed by that Israeli bomb that dropped right on top of him? I mean, right behind him, dude. They had it all on video. It's crazy. So Israel's kind of notorious for smoking journalists. They're pretty good at it. They've
Yeah,
killed hundreds and hundreds of journalists in the last like 5 years.
kind of the
And
pros.
I wonder why. If you're in
Yeah,
Israel, if you even take a picture of what's happening, oh, that's another thing. Ben Gurion Airport in Israel, based on all reports right now, is getting crushed, and that's their international hub outside of Tel Aviv. That's a
it's
massive, massive
huge.
hit. That's a massive hit. If they lose that airport, um, that's a really big deal for a country that small. That is their
Yeah,
predominant air facility for all of their like commerce and stuff, their political stuff, like everything. And it's getting shelled right now. I don't even think it's operational. It's definitely closed down at the very least. But speaking of that, so do you have that tweet? Do you have that tweet from Trump? So
um,
Israel
No.
struck Iran's South Pars gas field. And this is interesting because basically Trump came out with a tweet really, really, really angry. Um, and I think I sent it to you in a Facebook message. If you can open it, I can open it if you can't.
I
But
got it. I'm getting it.
he was angry about this, and he comes out with this tweet because this, like the South Pars gas field, is the world's largest national gas field, like the world's largest natural gas field. And based on all the events that happened with this and then happened immediately after, gas prices, like natural gas prices within 24 hours rose 25% in all of Europe and Asia. 25% just since this happened like last night. Okay. And so Trump comes up with a tweet, which Israel directly disputes because Israel is saying that we 100% knew about this. Do you want to read it? I think it's
Yeah.
worth reading.
Okay. This is Donald Trump's Twitter. Bear with me for everybody with my reading. Super dyslexic. Israel, out of anger for what has taken place in the Middle East, has violently lashed out at major facilities known as a South Pars gas field in Iran. A relatively small section of the whole has been hit. The United States knew nothing about this particular attack, and the country of Qatar is in no way, shape, or form involved with it, nor did it have any idea what was going on or is going to happen. Unfortunately, Iran did not know this or any preeminent facts pertaining to the South Park's attacks and justifiable unfairly attacks on the portion of Qatar's L- LNG gas facility. No more attacks will be made by Israel pertaining, and that's in all caps, by the way, um, pertaining to this extremely important and valuable South Park field unless Iran unwisely decides to a very attack a very innocent, in this case Qatar, which in instance the United States of America, with or without help or consent of Israel, will massively blow up the entire South Park gas fields at an amount of strength and power Iran has never seen or witnessed before. I do not want to authoritize this level of violence and destruction because the long-term implications that will have on the future of Iran. But if Qatar's LNG is again attacked, I will not hesitate to do so. Thank you for your attention to this matter. President Donald J. Trump. Jesus Christ.
You
I
did
think
good,
that
bro. I'm proud of you, man.
I think that's
I'm proud of you. You got
I
through
think
it.
that's the longest
Hey, you know what?
paragraph I've had to read out loud since college, man.
You know what's funny is this is how much Iran gave a single shit about those strikes that would be the world, like the biggest strikes that the world has ever seen.
Yeah, I
Immediately
know.
after Israel hit the South Pars gas field, and after Donald Trump put out that tweet, basically telling Iran to not retaliate, do not retaliate to this, please. Freaking, they hit everything. They hit Qatar, apparently destroyed some refineries, and the major refinery they hit was in Saudi Arabia, right on the edge of the Red Sea, and they hit refineries in Kuwait. Now, the one in Saudi Arabia by the Red Sea, that's the big one. That's like,
Yeah.
so for those that may not know, because of the Strait of Hormuz, Saudi Arabia has been shipping like 70% ish of the oil that they normally ship to the world through the Red Sea. And when Iran hit this refinery in Saudi Arabia that sits on the Red Sea, they just closed that all off. So that 70% of the oil that was getting to like Europe and Asia from Saudi Arabia through the Red Sea isn't going to happen now. Isn't going to happen now. And the immediate response with the market was fast. Like natural gas prices went up 25% overnight over there. 25%. Remember how we were talking about how none of our allies are supporting us in this war? Trump did a massive call out, right, to help with the Strait of Hormuz. And every
No
single one
way.
of our allies, Canada, England, France, Japan, Australia, Switzerland, Spain. Switzerland isn't letting us use their airspace. Spain isn't letting us use our bases. I know I'm missing one. Germany. I don't know. Every single one of them said no within 24 hours. And now they're going to see, they're seeing a 25% immediate impact on their natural gas prices. And on top of that, all the stuff that is being released now, and this seems planned to me, because this isn't a war. Like, if you're thinking about this from Iran's perspective, the way that they end this war, like I said, is just by staying alive. And if they
Yep.
can change the world's reserve currency to the Chinese yen, that's going to, I mean, that's going to be as close as the United States is going to get to losing superpower status if that happens.
Yep.
And just for those of you that may not know, I'll just read out exactly what that happens. If the American dollar is no longer the world's reserve currency, because everything that's coming out of the Strait of Bermuda and everything right now is getting traded through the Chinese yen, not the American dollar. It's through the Chinese yen. The economic impact. The US dollar would likely experience depreciation. The cost of imports would rise, potentially triggering high inflation within the United States. Borrowing constraints. The U.S. would face higher interest rates, limiting its ability to borrow at low cost and forcing a choice between tax increases or cutting spending on services. Reduced economic power. The U.S. would lose its ability to impose effective global sanctions as global trade and financial transactions move to other currencies, more than likely the euro or the yen. I'd be saying it's the fucking yen.
Yep.
Financial market shift. U.S. financial assets could see a decline in value as international investors divest or relocate or reallocate, causing instability in the treasury market. We're already seeing that in Dubai and all those places over there. Dubai, Bahrain, which was kind of like I said, I've been to both of those places, and they're like very interesting for Middle Eastern societies because it's you have super duper like there's Lamborghinis driving around. You know what I mean? Like it's wildly elite, but at the same time, in other parts of the
Right.
island, it's wildly economically poor. You know what I mean? But like all the rich and famous go there to play, and that shit's over there. Like
Yeah.
the way that Bahrain and Dubai has been hit, like that shit's not firing back up anytime soon, even if the war came to an end today. Standard of living without the ability to buy imports, the dollar finance debt, the average American standard of living would obviously decrease. Losing the world's reserve currency is a really, really big deal.
So with the currency dropping like that, that pretty soon that means like these countries that are holding our bonds and stuff are going to be getting rid of them, and that puts us in a really it's like kind of like a domino effect. Once that starts happening, the dollar's going to drop even more and more, and it sets up for play like all the cryptocurrency stuff, a digital currency, what essentially means if not regulated correctly, like they'd have the ability to shut your currency off, and there's a lot of weird things where sometimes I'm wondering if this is all intentional, but I really hope it's fucking not because it's not going to be good for anybody who is making under $1 million, who has a family. Um, it's going to suck.
Dude, how is it? This stuff, we've been saying this since day one, dude. This doesn't make shit for sense. This makes no sense. I mean, the Department of Defense just requested $200 billion for the war today.
Yeah.
Did a $200 billion request on top of the fact that we just financed DOD with the biggest budget that they've had in history, which is what we do every single fucking year. We basically break the previous year's record for defense spending budgets. And with all of that money, why the fuck we're low on everything? They're requesting $200 billion for munitions and stuff. I mean, on top of the fact that we've been spending $100 billion a day on the war and a freaking F-35, an F-35, which is our, like the best jet I think we have in our arsenal. It's our supersonic stealth strike jet, basically, is kind of how it's defined. It's a stealth jet. And didn't Trump say something about Iran's military capabilities being eliminated Like, we've already won the war over and over and over again, but we're just doing this shit kinda because we want to right now, because we don't have anything better to do with our time and our money and the
Yeah.
blood of our soldiers. We're just doing a little extra, you know what I mean? Just doing a little extra right now.
But they bombed 4 major facilities this week, shot down or this last night essentially shot down $100 million jet that's never been shot down in combat apparently, but they're not
Yeah,
capable.
and the
It's pretty
pilot's
crazy.
safe. The pilot's safe for everybody out there that's wondering. The pilot came out of it okay, I guess. I just wanted to throw that out there. I think we've lost control of this situation. Like, I think we've completely and entirely lost control of this war.
Yeah.
Like, we can't stop it at this point. I mean, Trump is putting out posts.
Nope.
He's basically saying we can stop anytime we want, which is a lie. He's saying that Iran is trying to negotiate with him over and over again. That's a lie. Iran repeatedly comes out and says, we don't want any negotiation. We're done with negotiating. We don't want to have anything to do with it. They're trying to make the world feel the pain economically, which they're doing. I mean, Donald Trump put something out on X and basically threatens the wrath of God. There was a time like that American firepower, it's weird as a 45-year-old man, and I've lived my whole life like partially in a unipolar world where the United States was the absolute dominant world power, like Rome, like
Right.
unquestioned superpower of the world. You know what I mean? And it's like, would anybody ever dare to challenge you? And it's like now with Iran, because they've just gone pedal to the metal with this, they're really seeing what fuck around and find out looks like, and they're understanding that they can take the hit. Like, they're taking the hits. And obviously, we have not destroyed their capabilities at all because they're still, dude, based on the thing that we played from David Sachs from, remember the last episode? What was David Sachs saying? He's the crypto czar, the administration's crypto
Yeah.
czar. He was saying that Israel is getting crushed and it might have to resort to a nuclear option, admitting they had nuclear weapons, admitting that Israel is getting absolutely pounded right now. And we know that Ben Gurion Airport is now probably out of commission, which is their
Right.
massive international hub airport in Tel Aviv because of Iranian missiles. And it's like all this shit, like the longer that this goes on, the more the just more weak and incapable this administration looks. Not just to
Well,
America, but to the entire world.
you don't think China and Russia are over there drooling, watching us just deplete our whole military? Like we keep this up for a year or two, like that leaves us really wide open for these other countries to become that superpower, and then all of a sudden we're getting sanctioned by China, we're getting sanctioned by Russia, you know,
Mhm.
because yeah, and
That's the
yeah,
history of the world. If you look at
mm,
empire, you look at the history of empire, right? It's like it
yep,
comes and goes, man. You look at thousands and thousands of years of empire building and empire sustaining and then empire failure, right? And it's almost the same story every single time. If you don't have some kind of outside power come in and crush your nuts, the way that these empires lose is by is basically almost by kind of their own like I would say their own
greed.
fever, but it's more of like your own arrogance. Like you lose because of your own arrogance, your own expansionism. And you get so arrogant
Yeah.
and so like you can do anything you want to anybody you want at any time you want without any repercussions at all, or even getting repercussions from your own citizens that it kind of crumbles from within. And this story is told over and over and over and over again. And
You look at Spain, you look at Britain, you look at Rome, you look at all these superpowers, and it's the exact same story. And it's like I was watching a thing, and we're like right now we're in like phase 7 of like becoming not the superpower. Essentially our what we know as America collapsing.
yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, if we lose the world's reserve currency and China's selling oil at like $140 a barrel because Trump is so worried about the oil market that he's lifted restrictions off of states buying money from Russia while Russia's fighting a war with Ukraine, that we're funding the Ukrainian war against Russia. And now we're allowing Russia to make a killing off of selling oil with China from Iran. It's like everything, it's the upside down, bro. Like everything that we were led to believe before all of this shit is exactly the opposite of what's happening. It's the exact opposite of what's happening. You got Pete Hegseth out there saying, my 13-year-old son, my 13-year-old son came into my room the other day, last night, and he's like, Father, what about these soldiers, these heroes, these soldiers that died? And he's like, son, they died so you wouldn't have to die fighting. It's like, what? I thought that's what we were
Well,
doing for last 20 fucking years, bitch.
yeah,
Like, we're not trying to get any of our fucking sons killed in this shit. You know what I mean? And the way things are going based on the last war, if his kid's 13, there's probably a pretty good chance they're going to fight in this war. Because
yeah.
if we
I
put
mean,
boots on the ground, dude, if we put boots on the ground, right? Like his kids, my kids, they're all going to be in play. They're all going to be in play. Come like my buddies' kids that are all like teenagers. If we put boots on the
well,
ground in Iran, homie, and this stuff goes 5, 6, 7 years. I mean, look, Vietnam was 10 years. You know what I mean? Like we don't get into we haven't got into very short wars. It seems like our wars have a tendency to kind of really last a pretty damn long time. You know what I mean?
right. And speaking of that, and that implicates they've already talked about the draft, and they're actually changing things in Congress right now. That's going to be in play in December of this coming year. And I just saw this on the internet, and I thought it was kind of ironic and kind of funny. So I'm going to play it real quick.
In December. Hello, I'm Republicans in Congress. Starting in December, every American male between 18 and 25 will be automatically registered for the draft. Hello, I'm a draft eligible man. Do you need my birth certificate? No, we already know who you are. So you need my passport? No, how many 18-year-olds have passports? So I don't need a birth certificate or a passport for you to register me for war. But if the SAVE Act passes, I need at least one of those to register to vote. Oh,
And I find it pretty ironic there. And for one, I'm all for having some sort of ID when voting, a state form ID. I'm not like just everybody gets to vote and there's no restrictions on that. But this SAVE Act, is pushing to that you have to have a passport or a birth certificate, which there's a lot of us. I mean, I didn't have a passport until 4 years ago. There's a lot of people who don't have it, and you got to go and pay for it, and then something that happens, like we don't have the infrastructure at passport offices to do it. There'll be a huge backlog. It's gonna disenfranchise millions of voters, and but that's besides the point. I think it's more fucked up that we're even talking about a draft and changing things in policy right now, like for things like that, you know?
Yeah, the draft thing, it makes me believe that we're never being told the full story on anything ever. Like all these plans, everything else, like when you're talking about Israel, when you're talking about, I mean, dude, who was it? They put it like, these are these conservative podcasters, these talk show hosts I was telling you about. Like, Mark Levin basically said that like 10,000 dead American soldiers is worth like 1,000 dead Israeli soldiers. And he was making that point because of population base. And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, why the fuck are you even making that point to begin with?
Right.
What are you talking about? 10,000 dead American soldiers is worth 1,000. Why would you even, what the fuck is that even like? Why is that even relevant to anything? It's like, and
Right.
also that's bullshit because you're talking about 10,000 families or 1,000 families. Either way, it's a family for a family. It's the same thing, regardless of population base. It's amazing to me how these people are starting to justify this shit. Like they're trying to convince us of the importance of it and the necessity of it while they started the war underwater to begin with. Like they didn't, at least during the Iraq war, like the lead up to the Iraq war, they spent a year lying to us and bullshitting us.
Right.
Like Colin Powell went up in front of the, and here's the thing, like when we needed a Joe Kent during Iraq, we had Colin Powell. That's what we had when we should have had a guy like Joe Kent. Okay, because Colin Powell went up like in front of the United Nations and lied intentionally about Saddam Hussein's weapons of mass destruction with his little PowerPoint, with intention, knowing it was a fucking lie. He knew it at the time of doing it. Okay, and it's like these guys, they do not have the best interests of American citizens in any kind of way, shape, or form at heart. And then they're going to do something. They're sneaky. They're being really, really sneaky about this because the whole draft thing was kind of like, it seemed like it was brought up recently, and then it was kind of just pushed to the back burner. You know, they were like, what was it, Caroline Levitt or whatever, the White House gal represents the White House in the reporter room, or the press secretary. I guess that's the official title, right?
Yeah.
She was asked about it, and she was like, the president is a very smart man. He's not gonna get rid of any options. He's gonna keep all options on the table. And you're like, wait a minute. We weren't talking about all options on the table. We were talking about the draft. Talking about the fucking draft, right? And now that kind of just goes away. Like people will kind of talked about it and then they're not talking about it. And now you got this thing like what you're talking about, where they're just going to enact this policy and they're not even going to worry about how it's going to look to the general public in any kind of way, shape, or form. They're just going to do it. I don't know how it is anymore, but when I was 18, you had to register, right? I remember I had to go like to the post office or something. I had to register for the draft. When I turned 18, it was like illegal not to do it, I think. And
you had to.
Yeah.
But
and now they're just going to do it for you. Well, thanks. That's great. Really appreciate that.
Well, I think what it was is when you registered to vote, you registered for the draft is what it was. So now they're saying if you're not a registered voter, essentially you're going to be registered for the draft. If you have a social security number that says you're of age, you're automatically registered, I think is the difference in what they're doing.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, it doesn't make sense, but it makes sense based on what they're doing. Here's another thing. So Joe Kent is what? He's under investigation by the FBI now? You know who's not under investigation by the FBI? Anybody on the fucking Epstein list.
Yeah, still.
You could be on the Epstein list 10,000 times or like Trump a million times, and we're still missing millions of files that are by law supposed to be out. And none of these multi-billionaire politicians, multi-billionaire corporate executives, multi-billionaire, millionaire fucking movie stars, athletes, musicians, whatever, influential people, kings, queens, princes. And here you got Joe Kent, who's got a college degree, raising 2 kids on his own, wife killed in Syria, 11 combat deployments, 6 fucking Bronze Stars, 20 years in special operations. And now he's under investigation by the FBI. These motherfuckers. I don't even, dude, I have no faith in federal law enforcement anymore, bro. And I was a federal law enforcement officer for fucking a decade. I have zero faith in federal law enforcement.
The thing what sucks is I really wish, like, with these federal agencies, that's one of the things that the public voted in. Because, like, when it's under a cabinet, like, especially the last 20 years, it's been weaponized severely. And it's supposed to be an arbitrary thing to the government that's there to investigate the government. And when you have a cabinet running it and putting a chair in who's going to cater to what he wants, this is what you get. And I'm not saying the Democrats aren't, they've done this shit too, you know, but right now it's happening. I mean, it's exactly a product of what you get, you know, and before we had a lot of FBI guys who would serve dual terms. They would go from one term to the other term. You know, all those guys kind of stayed in place. And then all of a sudden, you know, in this last term, it blew up, you know, and once again, he fired a bunch. The FBI fired a bunch of investigators who are directly related to Palestine terrorists. You know, I think there's something like 250 that was what they did was, not Palestinian, but that area, that was their group. That's what they did. And it might have been Palestinian, but,
like investigated,
yeah, regardless.
Like we're on behalf of Palestinians?
No, they investigated. They were like professionals that was what they investigated Palestinians, or there's terror cells
I see.
like
Okay, yeah. Okay,
Hamas
so they were doing
and
counterterrorism investigations,
yeah,
probably focusing on
counterterrorism,
Gaza
and
and Palestinian people. Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
and he fired a big group of those people, and that's the thing. But Joe Kent was probably the last guy, and not that he was in the FBI, but he's probably the last guy who had experience that would help in this fucking war. Like Hegseth, he was the National Guard. He did 20 years of service in the military, 3 tours,
Mhm.
and he was in the National Guard. Where you know, I already forgot his name. The guy
Joe
who
Kent.
just got Joe Kent. You said he did 12 tours, a whole
Yeah.
bunch of Bronze Stars. And he was doing that type of intelligent works and setting up our tier 1 guys in that type of intelligence. Like it's fucking bonkers.
But obviously he's an independent there's the deal. You get into a tier 1 or a tier 2 unit, especially a tier 1 unit, you have to be able to function you gotta be able to function under an extreme amount of pressure independently. Like, your decision-making ability has gotta be so shit hot that it's like on a Michael Jordan basketball level, okay, of execution. No joke. I mean, that is the selection processes for SF, the 75th Ranger Regiment, ISI, all the stuff that he was doing, and to make it through all of them is a real testament to the kind of human being he is, just intellectually. Like his cognitive ability, he has to be functioning at a very, very high level to be able to be in. And also, he was a CIA paramilitary officer as well. On top of that,
Right.
on top of his 20 years of, he basically went right from ISI into basically CIA. This guy has been a high performer his entire life. You know what I mean? Did you hear about what we're doing with Cuba? Have you kept up with that at all?
In the background, I know we were doing a bunch of sanctions. They were having a real hard time economically because of our sanctions.
Yeah.
But outside of that, I'm not aware.
So this is a little bit different, but I think people out there deserve to know about it because when we did these sanctions on Iraq in the 90s, we killed like 1 million Iraqis, most of them kids. Because this is what we talk about, right? Like Saddam Hussein, his kids aren't going to starve. They're not going to not have medical care. They're not going to have it. They're going to have everything they fucking need, just like Putin, just like, everybody else that's in a leadership position in any of these places that you put massive tariffs on and sanctions. And what you get is you starve out the general population, and you could end up with a civil war, some unrest, some revolution, and then the United States can kind of come in there and take advantage of it. In a lot of ways, it's planned that way. You know what I mean? To kind of
Yeah.
really, really destroy the general population. It sounds disgusting, and it is disgusting, but a lot of people don't realize that that's really what the kind of outcome you're looking for is. They try to doctor it up and make it look really pretty in the media, but it's like it just kills a shit ton of people and really innocent people. In Cuba, so I guess it's been a week or two now so we have a naval blockade around Cuba. And apparently, like the Russians have been trying to get in medical supplies and food, and we've been blocking them. And so the Cuban, like, this is crazy. So the entire island, from my understanding, and I could be wrong. If I'm wrong, like say something in the comments or something. But from my understanding, like they don't have any power in Cuba. They've turned off all of the electricity. So the hospitals, the restaurants, like all the food, like all the food's has gone bad. Like, I mean, if you go to a hospital, think about how much stuff in a hospital has to be fucking plugged in. Like everything's fucking plugged in to an outlet, right? Because everything has to usually it's like some kind of energy, unless you're stitching somebody up or giving them a shot. I mean, everything is electronic. Everything's electronic. I mean, the database to pull up people's records, people with cancer patients, like all these kinds of stuff that people are dealing with in just a regular societal level. And they haven't had power for weeks. And so
Well,
they're like
and
starving, going like they don't have any medical care. I mean, think of Denver, and there was a wall around Denver, right? It's lost power for 2 weeks. Like you live in Denver, pretty much.
yep.
I mean, you put a wall around Denver to where nobody can come in and out, nobody can help. You cut the power, and then you kind of just watch, right? You know what it'd be like? The Purge, the fucking movie, The
Yeah,
Purge.
no.
That's what it would be like.
Well, and with that being said, as Donald Trump would say, Cuba is a island surrounded by water. That they rely on export and import for a lot of their stuff because of that. You know, they're in a tropical region with some mild desert stuff, but they can't grow everything, so they import a lot of stuff. And as far as I'm concerned, yeah, the Cuba thing that it used to be, we were taking immigrants from Cuba, what was it, the feet on sand, feet on shore, when this
Yeah.
was going on, and we were taking those immigrants, and there's a lot of staunch supporters from Cuba who are big Trump supporters, and
Mhm.
it's a weird thing watching. I want to see with those people, because there's a lot of people who were promoting, like, let's make Cuba pro-Trump, let's make it America. I want to see what those people now that are stuck on the island with a country that's not open to immigration and aren't getting their food, if they feel the same way, because it has nothing to do with them. And they have gone through some real shitty leaders. So I'm not saying, and it's once again, like what America does with these sanctions is we make a shitty dictator even shittier.
Right.
Because most of these dictators, they're in a dictatorship. They got there through corruption and everything else. I'm not standing up for them, but then
Or we
we,
put them in,
and
or we installed them, or we
or yeah,
installed them.
in a coup. Yeah,
We install
100%.
lots of dictators. We got no problem with fucking dictators. The United States of
Yeah.
America, I don't give a shit who you are out there or what you think you know about life, has no problem with fucking dictators, because that's what we did in Iran in 1953. We took out their democratically elected
Oh,
government because they took out British Petroleum, right? And we installed a dictator. We've installed tons of dictators.
and we've meddled in elections that are democratic and are more democratic, and we've meddled in those elections too, and either side does it and then denies it, and then while both sides point the finger at either
Spy games,
side,
man.
and it's like,
Yeah,
yeah, it's
it's just
fucking
spy games.
crazy.
It's like, all these people that act shocked, like, oh, the horror. China and Russia is helping Iran. It's like, yeah, we fought multiple
Yeah,
wars against Russia through proxies. We did in Vietnam.
yeah.
We did it in Afghanistan.
Yeah, what do you
This is
think
fucking spy
Afghanistan
game. This is
was?
how this
Yeah.
shit works. Like,
Oh,
surprise, dude.
man.
And here's the thing: if you're a kid in Cuba and you're fucking starving, or you can't get medical care, or you're watching your dad or your mom die for lack of medical treatment, because this shit's really happening to real human beings. Does it fucking matter to you if it's a capitalist or a communist that's doing it to you?
Yeah. No.
I mean, so it's not the communist dictator in Cuba doing it to them. It's the
Yeah.
capitalist elected president of the United States doing it to them. Supposedly for the greater good, right? Because they want to make it a democracy and friendly to America, and like the exports, it's really a trade thing and like all kinds of other stuff. But it's like these are real fucking people, man. Because everything always comes down to the bottom line. And some of it is so deep and ingrained and hard to understand. But one thing I always like to do, especially in this program, is continuously talk about the human element, just like that kid in Lebanon, right? That had his whole family smoked. And
Right.
it's like, yeah, he's going to go join Hezbollah. He's probably going to kill a few people before he eventually ends up getting smoked himself. It's just the way of the world. It's the way that it's going to happen. And it's like, you're going to see that now with Cuba. You see it, we see it all over the world. And you know what? The UAE and Dubai and Bahrain, they have the same problems as Cuba does. Like, they're getting all this incoming from Iran. And it's like how do they get all of their supplies?
Right.
They're imported. Everything is
Well,
fucking imported to Dubai, Bahrain, the UAE, like all these places. They don't produce their own food. They don't have crops and cows and fields and production. Every single thing that comes into those countries is imported. And so it's like, guess what now with this war and them getting shelled like that? The people there are going to start suffering big time too, because there's not going to be imports.
Well, and ultimately too, like, as far as like making Cuba America or making it diplomatic, like we tried doing that with Puerto Rico, and we could hardly fucking take care of this tiny little fucking island, like and we're going to take on, like, I'm all about helping in the humanitarian issues and stuff like that when it sees fit, but like I'm not for colonialism is over. We don't need to take anyone else over. We could, and that's, it's
No,
like
I agree with
even
you
though
on
the
that. I think it's kind of like I've gone past the whole like everybody has to be capitalist, everybody has to be communist, everybody has to be
right.
Catholic, everybody has to be Christian, everybody has to be Jewish, everybody has to be Muslim, everybody has to like the fucking Dallas Cowboys. It's like everybody has to like the Denver Nuggets. I mean, like it's amazing to me. It's like we have like no live and let live. The live and let live mentality
Yeah.
is so difficult for especially for Americans. You know what I mean? It's like, hey, if Cuba wants to be communist, like let them be fucking communist. Who cares? If Russia wants to be
Well,
communist, then be fucking communist. We're still going to have the most powerful military in the world. If you want to play fuck games with the United States and try to attack us, we're going to put you on your ass. That's what we're going to do. But to go out and continually search for these fights and spend this money and spend this treasure and spend this blood, perpetually hunting enemies all the time based on the military industrial complex and expansionism, and now false outcomes that you didn't even realize were going to happen because you weren't prepared. And now it's going to be the detriment of the whole society to the point to where, honestly, dude, the worst case scenario of this Iran, I already think we're in a world war. I really do. I think we're
I mean,
at the very, very beginning, like it's happening. There's nothing we can do about it. Like this is what it is. You know what I mean? And I think it's going to keep inching forward and forward and forward. But we're already in an economic world war right now, for sure.
yes, that's what I was going to say. 100%.
Yeah, and it's Iran's plan, and it's a good plan for them because they've been waiting for this shit for 20 plus years. That's why everybody has been so like, well, people at least in the Anglosphere, right, is acting so shocked of the Iranian capabilities to the point of lying about it, to the point of putting people in jail that are reporting about it because the embarrassment level has gotten so huge. They're
Well,
lying about everything. You don't request $200 billion for fucking warfare in Iran if you've knocked out all of their goddamn military capabilities. We don't lose an F-35 stealth attack fighter jet if Iran has lost its goddamn military capabilities to be able to shoot that thing down. Do you know what I'm saying? I mean, that is a really, really, really big deal. It's crazy.
yeah. Well, and I mean, the amount of lying or trying to shift the narrative that's gone on through this term is just totally beyond me. Good. We started a war with our pants around our ankles, and that's the reality of the situation. Like our pants are already around our fucking ankles with all the tariff stuff that was going on economically. In the last 6 months in the private sector, this is coming from Jerome Powell, that we have 0% job growth. We haven't had 0% job growth since COVID.
Dude,
I
that's what
mean, this
we
stuff
should have
is,
talked about that earlier. You're 100%. That is a fucking fantastic point, dude. And we should have brought that up because on top of that, remember we just had another jobs report like a week ago or 2 weeks ago, right? We talked about it
yep,
for a minute. It's terrible. Our jobs reports, and these, like we talked about, these are Trump's people. He fired everybody else because he didn't like the jobs reports. And now nobody's talking about it because we're on this war with Iran. It's like Epstein, right? Drops by 98% on the internet. Nobody's talking about the jobs reports and all this other stuff. Why? Because
no,
everybody's talking about all this Iran shit, rightfully so too. But
but and then when it comes to the inflation too, so inflation has gone down a little bit since the Biden thing, but they also think they're artificially holding it there because he's like forcing Jerome Powell to like keep it there. And what happens when you artificially hold an inflation from rising? Like when it does decide to rise, like what's going to happen? And Jerome Powell pretty much said, if we go with this job growth, we are going to have inflation. And it's going to happen twice as severe because we're at war as well. So it's like one of those, um, yeah, I
have
mean,
you have you seen the Donald Trump "I did that" stickers on gas pumps yet anywhere?
Yes, I have. I have, and it's fucking hilarious.
Dude, how disappointing. I mean, like, remember when
Um,
Biden had that? And everybody's like, God, fucking Biden, piece of shit, terrible
right.
gas prices, blah, blah, blah. All these
Let's go
conservatives, super
stand
duper red,
and
white, and blue. I was one of those people, right? And it's like now, it's like, hey, yeah, Trump did that on purpose, by himself, with intention, for no fucking reason at all, with almost zero support. Dude,
no way out.
no
No
way out.
fucking plan.
Dude, we have no way
You
out,
know?
bro. We have no way out, bro. Bro. We have no way
Yeah.
out. We have no
We're
fucking way
stuck.
out, dude. We could pull, I mean, what we could do? Just say, Israel, you're on your fucking own. Good luck. And we'll just pull out. You could do
Yeah.
that. I mean, that's it. That's it, though. Because Iran is not, this is right now, it is on, quite obviously, based on their response from their gas refineries and shit getting hit, which were the biggest on the fucking world. And Trump being really, really worried about their retaliation of getting on Twitter and basically saying, if you retaliate, I'm going to crush your nuts. And they're like, come try to crush some bitch. We already retaliated. Fuck you.
Yeah.
I mean, like, they are not showing any respect back to him at all. At all. I mean, he is in a really, really, really shitty situation now. And he did it to himself. 100%.
Well, and we're the fucking laughing stock right now, too. Like, people around the world are laughing at us and wondering what the fuck are we doing? And it's yeah, I think number
Dude, we have
one,
conservative commentators trying to come up with excuses on on why American lives aren't worth as much as Israeli lives.
yeah. Well, and the bottom
That
line
is
is
what we're
like,
getting to. And we're getting to people calling somebody like Joe Kent a coward who've never done anything in their fucking lives ever, even
and
close
when
to
it
what he's
comes,
accomplished. And they're calling him a coward. And we're just like allowing this shit.
well, and it's because we allow these politicians to fucking divide us. And when so much of your belief is tied into your identity, like, you have to have an ego death. You have to have a big change to be like, nope, this is wrong. And we've let politics have slowly became identity, and not just like, oh, I think this way conservatively, I think this way liberal. Now, unfortunately, most people are liberal or conservative. And when you have to go against your party, like, you're killing part of your identity. And it's a lot easier just to be like, I'm okay with what's going on, or maybe this will work out. Let's keep our hopes up, And
Odds and Chris,
I'm
bro.
not one. Yeah, and it sucks, dude, because, and one of the things that, like, when somebody turns on their party, when it's from either side, I get a little giddy because it's literally like an awakening, and you do have to, like, kill some things that you built your whole ideology on until that point in your life, and then you go like, oh, maybe that wasn't as important as I thought it was, or maybe I see things differently. And I
And
think
it's
a lot of
hard.
people have a hard, yeah, it is.
It's hard, especially because you got friends, right? You have like, I know for me, it's one of the biggest challenges is, and I kind of saw this a little bit with Titty talking to him too, and some of the other guys. It's like you have a hard time like inserting your friend group. You know what I mean? Because you're like, wait a minute, I'm not just riding for the brand anymore, and this may or may not be a problem in this group. I'm not really
Yeah.
sure. You know what I mean?
I
And it's kind of like there's identity crises that can kind of come along with that. But at the same time, it's freeing. You I feel like the most free I've been, especially in the last few years, is breaking out of that crap. Like through COVID,
Yeah.
COVID really helped, was a real big eye opener for what politics really is. And then obviously the war before that, and like kind of deep diving into how that even happened and how deep that goes and how many lies are associated with that, all the way back to Korea and Vietnam, all the way back to when Smedley Butler wrote War is a Racket in World War One. That was in World War One. He coined the
Right.
military industrial complex before Dwight Eisenhower by 30 years. Based on, he was the most decorated soldier Marine in U.S. history. He was a World War One Marine, and just he saw so many abuses. And he wrote that. It's more like a pamphlet than a book. War is a Racket. If you're out there, you should definitely read it.
Right.
It's only like 50 pages, but I mean, this stuff's been going on forever, man, and it's like it is totally wrapped up in people's identities, and it's difficult to break contact with that, and it causes you friendships, it causes you family relationships, like,
Right.
it's people people don't like being challenged, you know? They're kinda like,
Uh,
you wanna be comfortable, you know what I mean? You wanna know
I
what you
watched
know and be comfortable.
I watched a TED Talk and it changed how I view a lot of things. And it was talking about inherently, like, we're taught to see different people. So it's hard not to be tribal. Like, it's ingrained in our face. So when we were running across the plains, you know, 10,000 years ago, when you saw somebody with a different facial structure or skin tone, like that was somebody who was different. So we're ingrained to see this stuff. And then we're also ingrained when you're challenged, like whether it's a thought, whether it's a feeling, like fear, almost 70% of your brain turns off and you're not working, you're defensive because that's what your brain does. So when you wake up and you see something that challenges your views, your brain goes straight into defensive mode and 75% of it shuts off and you're going straight on defense and you're going to challenge it. And you have to literally say like, I'm going to look into this, and you have to like break through that, you know? And the sad fact is, with all the racism, all that stuff, like as a society, repeat the same cyclical thing when it comes to racism, religion, these big social issues. And for our democracy to kind of run, they need this division. And that's why they play on all these cards with abortion, transgender stuff that's based on ideology, based on individual who you are, but has really nothing to fucking do with economics or getting fucking health insurance for a population. But it makes you go to a fucking corner and say, this is who I am. And if anybody disagrees with this, I'm not going to do it. And we need to get over some of that shit as a society to move forward. Like this Iran war, you have all these crazy, like the Oath Keepers even backed off. You have all these crazy kind of right wing groups who are on the fringe who are now backing away from Trump. And then it's like
Dude,
there's this
there's
big
January
common
6ers. There's January 6
yeah.
guys he pardoned and got out of prison, literally got him out of prison from January 6th who are now being like, "This is not the guy that I supported."
And if we could get rid of some of these social things or not have them be such a big issue that divide us, I think most of the people who are wearing a purple hat and have blue hair, I meant to say purple hair, but I think those people,
Those blue hat
I
weirdos.
think I think they're really happy with money staying in America and going to Americans. I think they're against this war. What we want to fight about is those deep issues that are emotional but have nothing to fucking do with making our society better. And somewhere there has to be this gray area where we could get along and choose to disagree on things, but let's make this country great again and quit fighting over shit that we've fought over for the last 40 fucking years.
Every
That was a
single
rant. That's
Yep,
how I feel, man.
100%. Dude, every single presidential election, you know what garners like the highest like statistical outcomes for whether you're talking about like war, healthcare, like all these other things, is the anti-war movement.
Abortion.
Well,
Oh,
the anti-war
anti-war.
movement
That's not
on
surprising.
both sides.
Yeah.
Like for the last 2, 3, 4 presidential elections at least, or even more than that, maybe, like overwhelmingly, whether you were a Democrat, independent, or Republican, the highest
It
polling was
was.
always like the anti-war. Like, we don't want any more war. We
Yeah.
want to reinvest our money in the United States. We want to quit killing our soldiers for whatever the fuck reasons we're doing it for, because we don't seem to really get anything out of it. And we want to like not be in $40 trillion in debt and try to start reinvesting in our own society. Like, hey, DOD, take that $200 billion and shove it up your ass. Like, you get plenty
Yeah.
of fucking money. This is ridiculous. I would rather take that $200 billion, frankly, and put it into infrastructure of South Chicago or West Virginia, You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or like some of these other places. Like take that $200 billion and give it to the fucking ranchers and farmers across America that struggle. Like you can find way better things to do with that money than just like burn it up in a month and a half of fucking warfare for fucking nothing.
Yeah.
While the prices and
And
everything are going to continue to skyrocket everywhere. We're not feeling it here, which is like we will be slowly. We're going to be slowly feeling it. But if you live in Europe or Asia right now, this war in Iran is a real big problem. I mean, their prices, and here's another thing, like their GDP and stuff, like a lot of these countries average, like they're making like $30,000 a year, people, that's about what they on average make. And to have their energy and electricity and like gas prices go up to the point to where it's going to be completely unaffordable. Nobody's going to
yeah.
be able to do anything. I mean, 25% it just went up since last night in gas
And well,
price. Not
the
in
sad
like natural gas. Oil is going to start hitting $200 a barrel.
I mean, this is what happens also when other countries start, like World War starts. When you start having these global economic impacts, like this is, like you said, we're already economically in a world war. And also the threat of, like, there's so many hacking threats right now that we're not even thinking about. Like, we think about bombs hitting America. Think about if they shut down the infrastructure to LA and hack the grid and decide to shut down LA for fucking a month. Like there's so many other threats than bombs just hitting us, and we haven't even got there. Like when the cyber warfare starts happening, and there's been a couple business and like companies where they've lost things where it's suspected if it was cyber or not. But that's a whole nother threat that, this is a new modern era of war, so unless someone sends a nuke over the seas to bomb us, like we're going to get hit by either a false flag attack, a genuine terrorist attack, or cyber
Dude, the false
warfare.
flag
And that's
attack
how it's
worries the
going to
shit out of me.
start.
I'll tell you what,
Yeah.
if we got hit tomorrow and we lost 5,000 Americans, I wouldn't trust the story at all. If they were just like
No, I
Iran just
wouldn't.
hit us and killed 5,000 Americans, I would be like, I think we just killed 5,000 of our own people, is what
Yeah,
I think we did.
100%.
And it's like, I don't
Well,
think 9/11 was an inside job, but I think they let it happen. 100%.
yeah,
If you read the commission report and how many
yeah,
things were intentionally left uninvestigated and let fall through the cracks through multiple agencies, like really, really well reported, documented, investigated stuff that was just intentionally dismissed and dropped. All the way up to right to the day of it, and like the guys that didn't show up and invested. Remember, it was the dude that invested extra insurance into the tower and didn't show up to
yeah.
work that day. I
Uh,
mean, there's
when you
so
look at
many
and
different
buildings,
things. Like the 9/11, like the powers
so
that the United States government got after 9/11 were crazy substantial. It was the biggest power grab
yeah,
probably since the New Deal. You know what I mean? Huge power grab.
and and you
It would
had,
happen again.
the infringement on it, and you have it with the infringement on the Constitution with the Patriot Act and everything else. It's just an excuse to tighten tighten that core. And I mean, hopefully there's enough people open to it. And it's the sad fact is the last time this country got along was 9/11 because they gave us a
Yep.
common enemy, which I think was manufactured, and especially looking back on it, and hopefully there's enough people who lived through that who are our age who you kind of see that, but I still think it's probably not enough. There's gonna be 5,000 Americans die from a terrorist attack tomorrow. Real quickly, the narrative is going to shift, and you're going to have all the, and we'll see though. And
Oh, the
hopefully
war
that's
drums.
not something
Yeah, the
we
war
have.
drums will beat, buddy.
Yeah,
The war drums will be beaten hard if that happens. I guarantee you. Everybody will have an American flag on their car. I mean, realistically, if you're the Trump administration at this point, I don't know how else you get out of it. How else do you get out of this?
yeah,
You're gonna lose. You're gonna lose the House. You're gonna lose the Senate. You're gonna be a lame duck president. He might end up getting removed from the presidency altogether. Seriously,
yeah.
like they might remove him through impeachment and other processes and like criminal investigations completely out of the presidency, completely out. I mean, that's what's on the
Uh,
table. And you're like, you're still doing this. Okay. So you're still doing this. All right. Well,
I
Joe Kent's
mean,
letter is making a lot more sense because none of this other stuff makes any sense. And then we start putting all the pieces together, going all the way back to 9/11 and all the way back before that. And the fact that conspiracy theorists are almost batting 1,000 at this point, like we said.
Right.
I mean, I think we're in a point in our society where we're either gonna crumble completely. We're gonna lose superpower status. We're gonna lose the world's reserve currency. We're gonna turn into a second class society to some respect, or somehow we're gonna get out of it. And I don't know how we're get out of it. I wish I had a rosier perception on what I think is possible, but I don't know.
I I think
I don't know how we
I
even get
think
out of
it's
this
gonna
war.
get worse. Yeah, well, I think it's gonna get worse before it gets better, and it's gonna take some coming together as like a group of people, and we need to quit hating each other. There's, I mean, I was reading a poll, and it was from an independent poll, like independent voter poll, and it was saying on crossover issues, 70% of the country agrees on issues, crossover issues. So Republican or Democrat, there's 70% of the issues that the country agrees on. So that means we're letting 30% of something divide us. And that's
Yep.
yeah. And that's why we're having this podcast, is because, I mean, we see that, you know?
Oh yeah, absolutely, man. You got anything else? You want to call it? I think we can call it.
Yeah, I better call it.
All right, brother. I love you, man. Thanks for jumping on for a second one of the week. We had pretty decent amount to talk about. So have a good weekend, dude.
You too, man. Love you, brother. Take it easy, man.